Okay, so everyone, thanks for coming and sorry for demo effect of course, but let's see at the demo again. Undo that. So I would be Joonas Lahtinen and I'm the Analyst 15 co-maintainer for the module for the graphics, let's say memory management and graphics submission would be my deal, and then there will be Jani Nikula handling the display side, and then we have Property Cloud also. So, but I have a kind of history with having to remotely access the devices because usually any device that you are going to do new development with will be closer to the factory than your home. So either you will be traveling. Better now?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so there will be always remote, so there is certain amount of pain in the trying to access them. So I decided to kind of share my experiences with it. So I'm going to briefly go over what it actually means in this context that I'm talking about, and then we'll go about the open source solution that there is for this issue. So the question is to how to remotely access machine for graphics development. So it's kind of different for many developers, especially for kernel developers. When they are accessing it, they are mostly using the SSH and locally. So in order to kind of open it up more, we need to kind of think what it means to be using it remotely. So when you have a device on your desktop, you would be using, not nowadays anymore so much, but used to be, you would be using serial port to debug some early booting issues. For example, when you do some KMS, there will be deadlock and the kernel simply won't come up. So that will be a way of like the last result. So nowadays it's going to be harder because fewer parts will be having serial port that is easily accessible. So there is nowadays the USB debug port, and even for the USB 3.0 you have an alternative. But the support is kind of, I've tried to set it up a few times in mainline, and it's currently hard to get working. So I think Net Console is then the kind of go-to solution, but that can solve only so much of your issues. So I have highlighted points in the slide that would normally be, or traditionally be remotely accessed. So the display, not only the remote desktop, so for somebody purely working on the 3D side and the user space, they are probably fine with the desktop viewer. But for the kernel, you really want to know if your kernel mode setting is working, and if you want to go to BIOS and you want to be able to fix that BIOS, because usually, yeah, especially the new devices, the BIOS will be a little bit flaky at times. And then for that you need the keyboard and mouse, so SSH isn't quite enough, even if Intel chips have been in the use for remote accessing, but it's not been in the positive side lately. So and then it's the USB sticks, that's also something, so you probably want to download that BIOS somewhere and then also be booting whatever you get a report from somebody that it's not working on this specific distro, so you want to be live booting that with distro also. So for that, and power control is pretty short. I'm sure Martin is still here, but for example, you can see, so there are various solutions for depending on how much you're willing to money on it for controlling the power of the devices, but that's of course something you will definitely be yanking the plugs if you have the device on your desk. It's simply not doing anything, but so you need to be able to do that remotely too. So here, it's kind of simplified. I have assembled the system here on my desk, but it will probably be easier to look up from the slide. So this is what you would be kind of expecting for a fluent remote using of a machine. And It's also shouldn't for, let's say, open source average contributor, it probably shouldn't be too expensive either. There are lots of KVM IP solutions, of course, but those are not, you can modify those and you can, or well, you reverse engineer them, but to start with something open would be kind of a nice touch. So, I have been looking and trying quite a few different things, and I've came down to these for at least the current time, so I'm always looking for the next kind of alternative. So it's not a Raspberry Pi, unfortunately, so it's a BeagleBone Black, because the Raspberry Pi won't give you the USB gadget, and then the Raspberry Pi Zeros that do get you that, they can't be, well, you have to do soldering if you want to power them from a DC power supply. So I think one idea here is because we are going to be deploying in the lab environment, and I won't be necessarily there to do the soldering, so it has to be kind of be able to be put together by the lab engineers, and then I'll just be able to then use that machine. So for the BeagleBone Black, it would basically be the mainline kernel will be running, but obviously PI hasn't been completely perfect with all the patches. So the performance, if you are, for example, looking to do some network routing with the device, is going to be a little bit on the bad side. So, but Roger Nelson has been working on kind of building off the, you know, you can download, you can flash it, and it will perform really nicely. And it's 4.14, I think, the latest TTM, so it's not that old. So it's pretty nice. And then there's, yeah, there are also, I'm not sure how much mainline is being run on these single port computers, because for example, when I tried the mainline kernel, I found that there has been, for half a year, there's a regression in the BeagleBone Black device tree that it will basically make the USB gadget unusable before you revert that. So it's, so yeah, in that sense, if you want to get those cheap off-the-shelf components, you might have to end up using the EI provided kernel in this case, for example. So yeah, and then the linking HDMI sender will be to just order it from your random eBay vendor, and they ship it to you. It's about 30 euros, and it will basically work out of the box. But I know that there are a lot of hackers here, so I guess there is a lot of reverse engineering, and there are alternative firmwares to the device, so you can basically get it to go up to full HD, and then do pretty much all the resolutions down from full HD. But even if you get it, when they ship it to you from the eBay, it will be doing both 720p and then full HD, but it will be downscaling to full HD to the 720p, but that's actually quite convenient, because when you are, for example, running benchmarks on your remote device, you are probably going to be comparing to somebody. The reporter probably had full HD display, or nowadays would be 4K too, but full HD is still kind of the standard for performance. So you will actually get the performance numbers for the full HD, but you only use the 720p bandwidth over, well, your native VPN connection to whatever site you need to be accessed. And then it has some quirks to the device, so it's setting UDP package of 0 length, so that's not exactly illegal, but most of the software currently is the latest version of FFmpeg. You won't manage with that, so you probably want to be doing a firewall from those. So yeah, like with FFmpeg, it's quite straightforward. When you get the cable connected to the device, you can just, the device will always on, even when your machine isn't putting any HDMI signal, so you will at least get a no signal picture from the system. So it's quite convenient when you need to check the progress. Even if you would be using SSH to launch the performance like benchmark, you would be viewing them from the screen easily. And then you have for GStreamer, but unfortunately with this specific device, GStreamer is struggling when you are doing a kernel mode setting or whatever mode setting, and we kind of resetting the encoder, timestamping numbering, and that will scale down GStreamer unfortunately. So if somebody's expert, drop me an email if you know. Because GStreamer otherwise actually will result in a smaller latency between the interactions and then the video, so I prefer that. And then I'm built also for the tech-savvy stuff, you know, you can also, if you're interested in only the picture part of the screen, it's easy to strip it out, and then you will be saving some of that VPN bandwidth. And also because not all networks are created equal, UDP is kind of difficult thing, so you can combine with the legal one black here, just make it a proxy either with SOCAT, you know, we can do it way. But I guess you might be, even the UDP is nowadays being replaced by a commercial product. There is some patches, there was even month ago, which, yeah, so, but you will do it with a much lesser load, so you will be able to do other duties with, for example, transferring files with legal. So, yeah. So for controlling, of course, as this is going to be about the open source utilities, and we already have a great USB cassette stack in the Linux kernel, so you basically don't need anything else. So from the BeagleBone Black, you will be plugging the USB cassette cable to the host device, and that's it. You will be able to have your mouse, keyboard, serial port, and any mass storage gadget there. So basically that will fulfill most of the needs when you already have the display with the HDMI encoder. And this is the way at least how I started it. When you really just need to get down to it, you can go to command line and you can write to the heat descriptors, or you know, like the heat packages like raw. Here I will highlight it, so it's a bit like you would be programming with logo or something. You try to hit that button, you go a little bit too far, you need to come back a little bit. So. And with the keys, of course, then there will be, because the heat protocol will only give you the changes for the keys, so you have to be a little bit smarter and write a script that will do hiding for you. But it's easy to generate those even for lengthy command sessions. And then there is a caveat that, you know, if you're wondering why it's not working, you probably don't have the length correctly for your. So on the demo, there was time. I think I go through the rest of the slides, and then let's see for the demo. So from what I've described here, you know, when you, because you might have some delays with your network, it might be more beneficial instead of sending the complete hit reports from the remote machine to the destination, just send an indication that I want button pressed for a brief period of time, because otherwise you will be hitting those sticky keys, and that's then going to ruin that, you know, script that you have been running. And then Chameleon was brought up when I demoed this at our office. So yeah, it's going to be 1 frame per second. Currently you can get to 60 frames per second with the native encoder, but then it's only HDMI, and we're of course not sure how long these will be available. But I hear that Chameleon 2 will be even better, but not necessarily on the decoding side, because it's not a thing for them, but it might be in the future. Okay, so how much do I have?
7 minutes, so.
Okay, so let's try. I'm kind of hopeful to have this from that. First of all, keep our computer. So that's done. And if there are any questions in the while I'm packing, please ask us to answer. It could be not related to exactly what I was presenting, but maybe to the remote access. I've been accessing the machines remotely for quite a long time, trying to come up with something smart, including QR codes and webcams take into kind of hardcore those entrapments, but this is something that for various reasons it seems not coming out. Yeah. Yeah, the data is open, so let's see. Firewall. Yeah, well, not sure. It wasn't like a few minutes ago, so yeah. So for some reason, issues with the device. So I guess then it's, if any questions, not then I will have to, okay.
And so if you're not specifically trying to debug a display driver, have you looked into other options, like using the GPU for rendering, but having the frame buffer transfer the SMPD and C line?
Yeah, so as I'm working with the INAM15 driver, and we are not even, I'm not even on the display side, but in the memory management. So usually when something goes south, we don't maybe even get the, any buffers. We just get the UEFI console. So it's kind of, so I haven't been doing that, but that is of course an option and be pretty easy to do with the, you can have prime export of the display surface. Any other questions? Okay, so if not, then I will thank